So I was reading a book subtitled An Inquiry into Values, and when I finished that and started another, lo and behold, as they say, it too was an investigation into values, namely, the value that comes from working together, despite the consarned fiendish difficulty of trying to do that, working together. This is not a time, I might note, when people are especially devoted to working together. This, I think, is more an era given to everyone for themselves, me first. That's the way it feels. Anyway, this second book was The Boys in the Boat, the story of the 8-man crew from Washington that won the 1936 gold medal at the Olympics in Berlin. The virtue of working together, or in this case, pulling together, and pulling your own weight, doesn't need my support. It's not only vital in rowing, but in all team sports, and in all group endeavors. This book tried to make it seem that it is especially applicable in an almost mystical way in rowing, but I don't think that's the case. Great teamwork, whether it's called swing or chemistry or trust or love, it does make the single entity greater than the sum of its parts. And I would say that when it comes to everyone pulling together for a common good, few nations in history excelled at it more than Nazi Germany. So pulling together, fascism, is not necessarily in itself a desirable thing. It can be a dangerous thing. I don't want to ruin the party, I'm just saying. The rowers on the boat were not dangerous except to their opponents. This is a white bread tale, or, given its powerful subjects, I should say it's Wonder Bread. The book is nearly a fawning account of these young men. The worst we hear of any of them is that one sneaks cigarettes, and some of them enjoy lobbing water balloons at cattle from a speeding train. There are two classifications of prose, fiction and nonfiction. Fiction means that the author is inventing everything, he's making it up. The opposite of that is not called truth, it's called nonfiction, which means that to the best of the author's ability, he is not deliberately making anything up, but, warning, what he is writing may not be the truth. The author of this book is so extremely sympathetic to his subjects that I felt he was constantly overplaying his hand and laying it on quite thick, maybe even adding coat after coat of luster as it was done for the finish on the racing shell. I would have called the book The Crew for the single entity that won all of its races. The author went with The Boys in the Boat because one of them used that phrase in speaking with him. Also, he got the alliterative bonus, and he got the benefit of the word boys, which makes us love them more and stamps them as the underdogs in the world of men. I would say that boys are 8 or 10 or 12. These athletes were men. Let me skip past everything and go right to the end, the gold medal race. It is not simply run to its stirring conclusion, a victory for the American boat by 0.6 of a second. It is more complicated than that. We are told that one of the American rowers is so sick that he virtually passes out during the race, then miraculously recovers, which is crucial because he is the stroke oar. Then there is the matter of lane assignments. For some reason the author can't explain, the two fascist nations are given lanes 1 and 2, those most protected by the shore. England and America are out in 5 and 6, fighting the wind and choppy water. Was this a random selection or a devious Nazi plot? But even as we're trying to come to grips with the unfairness of that, there is added to it an unfair start. 4 of the boats leap into the race, leaving England and America in their wake. Again, is this an accident or is it part of Der Fuhrer's plan for world domination? We can't know for sure, but the Americans have so much more than a race to overcome, an oarsman near death, bad water and a tricky crosswind, and a lousy start. Add to it a huge crowd of rabid Nazis screaming Deutschland, Deutschland so loudly that the crew can't hear the coxswain, which is absolutely nothing like a pure-hearted bunch of Americans cheering USA, USA. And finally, most despicably, we learn that Hitler, Goering, and Goebbels used a U-boat to secretly attach a 2-ton anchor to the bottom of the American boat, which will have to drag it through the mud at the bottom of the lake. If all of that is true, it seems a bit much, but the valiant boys overcome it all and win, dragging that anchor to victory, at which point a furious and disappointed Herr Hitler stalks off. I watched videos of the race on the internet. It's hard to tell about the start, and of course I couldn't see the anchor, but the stroke oar doesn't look like he's dying, and the water all across the lake looks to be smooth as glass. Which reminds me, the author avails himself throughout the book of every cliche in the language, except that it was raining cats and dogs. However, given that it was Seattle, maybe it was pouring ocelots and wildebeests, or salmon and moose.